Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the WhizzbangBAM podcast. I'm your host, Brad Goodall. Today with me, I'm going to let her describe what she does, and I'm not going to follow the notes too closely. Welcome to the podcast, Eileen Tilson.
Thanks.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad I got your name super perfect the first time and didn't have any problems with it at all.
You know, you didn't fuck up on the bad part. I mean, most people mess up Eileen because they just can't figure that name out. So,
what kind of name is Eileen? Is that Irish?
It's very Irish.
That's
yeah,
an
it's
Irish
a very
name.
Irish name. Yeah.
Eileen, tell me what you do in the music industry. You're a music industry pro.
Yeah.
You're deep in the game.
Yeah.
What are you all
I've been doing it now
about?
for over 20 years, which is crazy to think about.
Right on. That's great.
So I oversee all of the marketing and artist development at Oh Boy Records, which is John Prine's record label that he founded in 1981.
Very cool.
That's a synopsis.
That's a great synopsis. That sounds like it has a lot more depth to it than just that one sentence.
Well, I mean, because we're a family-owned label, right? Like the Prines own the label. We're really small. So I think when you work at a really small label, you have to be able to wear lots of hats, whatever that means for whatever day. I mean, there's, we're all not too high and mighty to not take the trash out. You know what I mean?
Right. You don't have an assistant in Nashville here helping you guys out?
Yeah, sure. But,
Whenever I move here one day, I'll take the trash out at
Okay.
Oh Boy Records in the hopes that I can get some demo money out of you guys.
Totally.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm totally kidding.
Nice.
You've been there since the beginning?
So, no, I wasn't born in 1981.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
So John and his manager,
get it right
Albinetta,
eventually.
started in 1981. And then Al passed away, and the Prines took over in 2015,
Right.
and I started then.
Okay. Too many hats, but like, what is, you mentioned hats. What does that essentially mean? I mean, what would you put on a business card? It's really interesting because I ask people this all the time, exactly what you do, and everyone always, you could fill a business card with what you do.
I mean, so I think John actually said it best one time. He was accepting an award, and he was like, thanks to my son, Jody Whelan, who runs Oh Boy Records, and thanks to Eileen Tilson, who really runs Oh Boy Records. She keeps the train on the tracks.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that sounds perfect, actually. That is what I do. I think my job is to keep everything moving forward. And I think I do that pretty well.
Somehow I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
We all need people. I feel like artists really need people to kind of help funnel them and just keep them on the tracks.
Yeah.
What do you feel like a label is up to in 2022? Because I know I see, as an independent artist, I see a lot of information battling what labels do and don't do, what they used to do, what they could be doing. I mean, do you feel like this is like a turbulent time for like a small family-owned label?
No. So I was saying to you earlier, one of the interesting things about our label is most labels sign artists, and I mean, I hate to pop this bubble, but like, because, they need to pay bills, right? Like, that's how they keep their lights on. They sign all these big acts and they make money and whatever. Because John owns the label, and his family owns the label, we never needed the extra money to sign artists, or we weren't dependent on our artists to make us money. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it really puts you in a position where you can sign artists that you just really believe in. You can just kind
more
of
of a niche passion project rather than like a business that's like has a hard emphasis on turning profits.
There's no bottom line for us, right? Like, there's no board we have to report to. There's nobody we have to ask permission to do something. John signed a guy named Dan Reeder, who's probably the most obscure artist you could possibly find, but yet he fits Oh Boy, and I think throughout the 40 years that the label has been there, we signed sort of eclectic, really strong songwriters.
Right.
And that's always what we believed in.
Songwriting is the apex of what it's really all about at Oh Boy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got you. I mean, how often do you have to go and like, do you actively seek out stuff, or does it just kind of find its way into your own ether?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, we get hit up, as everybody does, with new music constantly, people wanting to sign, people telling us, I sing this song and it sounds just like John Prine. Well, that's obviously not what we're looking for. But I think, we also are sort of notorious for like sliding into Instagram DMs and saying, hey, we really like you, and, would you want to come be on our label?
Really?
I think, we found this guy, Jody found this guy named Trey Burt randomly on some Spotify playlist, and then just reached out to him and said, we really dig you. How would you come? Would you like to be on our label?
That would be a fun day to wake up to a DM and somebody offering to, I guess when you grab somebody and you bring them into the fold, do you pivot into this thing of like, how can I grow this artist, or do you just focus on what the artist wants for their project, or is it like, I mean, I know you don't have to necessarily chase some kind of bottom line or worry about that, but like, I mean, what are the goals for some of these more obscure artists? Is the goal, I mean, to just give them a platform, or is it to also just help them grow, you know?
So I'm a really big believer in building a fan base. And in my opinion, to have a career in music, a real true career in music, you have to build your fan base to where you're only serving those people. And so my sort of first goal when we take on a new artist is to find even the 5 people that really, really like that artist, and then figure out how to multiply that. And
exponentially, and so on.
And get those people to be really engaged with you. And then everything else, like, you know, we pay a lot of money for publicists and all this sort of stuff, and that's important, but it's not as important as that person buying your ticket to your show.
No, it's still about shows, no matter, I mean, the internet can become as complex as it and it's just going to, but there's still nothing that's going to work, I don't think, better than just a really good live show, and then afterwards being, perhaps in the early days at least, when you're growing, being accessible. Yeah. You know, people being able to come up and talk to you or whatever, sign a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
That stuff, that doesn't go away. That's old school. It almost sounds like, you know, like, what's the word, antiquated or whatever, you know, because I talk all the time about socials on here, but like, there's still so much merit in that.
I think it's, you know, socials are important to keep your fans updated but that's only a fraction, you know, like, we always give the example of when we were announcing John's last album, The Tree of Forgiveness. I knew a lot of his fans were not online. So we had this laundry list of addresses from people. We used to do a mail order back in the day. Mm-hmm. So we had hundreds and hundreds and actually thousands of physical addresses. And we just made postcards, and I had John make a little digital note saying, hey, I have a new album coming out. And we just mailed them. We mailed, I don't know, 40,000 postcards.
40,000? And
had our phone number on there saying, if you want to order this record, call this number. And they, you know, it worked.
It worked? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it really, that's almost, it's not even necessarily the age of the audience. It's really just doing whatever you must do to reach any audience. Yeah. So if you know a certain artist's audience wouldn't be on Instagram to see that a new album's coming out, adapting to that. That's what you're talking about when you're saying keep it all on the rails. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the adaptation aspect of it? Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. Wow.
I don't think it's right for an artist to have to do every single thing. You know, it's for something that works for one artist is not going to work for the other. And it drives me insane when I see these cookie cutter campaigns and forcing artists to do the same thing that other artists are doing. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I see a lot of people on social media preaching about the way they got to where they're going. And they're usually not really necessarily artists you listen to. They're people who are almost like selling a business course of like how to, you know, get syncs or how to get a record deal or whatever. They're not necessarily people you're actively listening to. Yeah. Oh gosh, I just lost my point just going back into there.
The cookie cutter campaign.
Cookie cutter campaign. I mean, I feel like all the people I really like had kind of a quirky rise to meeting, you know, my view, my eyeballs. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't was not a cookie cutter system at all.
No, I mean, I think a lot of it is like being in the right place at the right time and all that. But again, going back to my other point, if you just super serve your fans and you always put them as like the most important people in your career, they are going to get behind you. Right. You're going to make them feel special, you know? Right. We always at Oh Boy, we always let fans know before we let a press release go out. Always, 100%. Because I don't believe in, you know, some diehard fan reading about a new album on RollingStone.com. I'd rather them hear it from the artist first.
Right. Via the mail.
Yeah. Whatever. I mean, whatever works, whatever I have to do.
I'm trying to think if I had it. Where do you see, I'm going to my notes just briefly. I know you didn't want to go to the notes, but I only have one question, really. Okay. It's just, what makes you, well, which question do you want to do better? I think you want to see, oh, you're going to have to edit this out. I'm completely fucked. Anyway, what makes you want to sign somebody, and like, where do you see Oh Boy going in the next 5 years? Yeah. What's the 5-year plan for you keeping it all on the rails?
Yeah. I always joke that we're going to be the Sub Pop of the South. So since I was a little girl, I always wanted to work at Sub Pop Records. I thought they were like the coolest indie record company ever. And when I started at Oh Boy, I was like, we have an opportunity to be the coolest label in the South, at least, for sure. And so my intent is to just continue to have this roster of artists that are just better than everybody else, you know? And I know that sounds really, really narcissistic, but in my mind, it's like we can do that. We have the freedom to sign who we want to sign without having to go up against some sort of competition. And, you know, we're never going to be a label that has 15, 20 artists on its roster, ever. But
How many do you have?
Including John's catalog or not?
Including?
1, 2, 6.
6, okay. It's really a family. That sounds like a family. 6 people living in a
tight.
house, keeping it all on the rails.
Yep.
That's how I sum it all up. See how that brought it all back?
Yeah.
See, I am a pro at podcasting after all, everybody. Thanks for stopping by today. Eileen Tilson, Old Boy Records.
Thanks
you.
for having me.